you have to spend some time just learning the basics.
The basics.
Like
Absolutely.
learn how to throw a punch,
Yep.
how to throw a jab, how to throw
Where your
a
hands
cross.
go, what a stance is.
Yeah,
Like,
where do your feet need to be to execute a kick? And
hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of Off the Mat. My name is Josh Dumoulin, and this is...
Nicole Dumoulin. Did I say it right?
You did
today?
after. There we go. Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Did that surprise you?
It did, actually. I was curious. I was like, I don't know which way you're going to go.
Caught you off guard today?
A little bit.
Yeah. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
We're recording on a Friday again, so it's Boys Friday today.
That's right.
Early dismissal from school. Fridays are like, I love Fridays, actually. Just because I know you and the boys have a lot of fun, and it gives me just some extra time to get a lot of work done. So, yeah, it's good. I love Fridays.
Me too.
Love a Friday.
I do too. I enjoy.
Josh brings me Starbucks on Fridays too, so that's lovely. Thanks.
Of course. So, did I ever tell you about my first black belt tournament?
I believe so.
Okay.
But you might have to refresh my memory.
Yeah. So I don't know what your first black belt tournament was like,
was
but
terrible.
Okay. So we might have a very shared experience in this, which will be very interesting because if I kind of go through mine, you might be like, mine was pretty close, or maybe not, but we'll see. And I feel like this is actually a lot of people's first black belt experience, their first tournament.
For sure.
Their first maybe day in class or whatever. You have all these expectations and everything. But my first black belt tournament was, it was actually a really big event too. It was not a provincial. It was the Pan American Games was the first one I got to go to.
Wow,
as a black belt.
That's a big tournament to attend to as a new black belt.
Definitely. The funny part was when we were training for it, we were preparing for it, and I had, earned my black belt. I don't remember how long I had the black belt for before we got to that event, but I do remember just this feeling of just raw confidence of just like, I was so ready to go. I was excited for it, but I was also coming out of the color belt stage, red belt, and I had been winning the last 3 or 4 tournaments that we had gone to before that. So as a red belt, I got to compete both in patterns and sparring, and I was doing really well. Double gold or gold silver, just
Every term.
I was doing really, really good. And so I had this expectation that it was just going to be the exact same thing. And I couldn't be further from the truth. It was devastating. So when I went there just standing tall, feeling kind of cocky, probably pretty arrogant, probably, definitely.
How old are you?
15.
Okay.
15. So, yes, it was not only that it's the first event you're going to, it's the biggest event that you can kind of go to for there other than, like a next stage of world championships or cups or anything like that. And I'm also the youngest in that division, right? Because it was 15 to 17-year-olds.
Yeah.
So I think my first match was against a person who was probably closer to the 17 mark. And this guy was a killer. And he just annihilated me. I think I got a couple things on him in the early part of the match.
He was just like feeling you out.
Yeah.
He let you get a couple points and then
just wiped the floor out with me. And I remember being just like devastated. And it really immediately had a big effect. I was like, oh man, it was just so surprising. But I got through it. I overcame it. I trained, and I just really got down to I just got to work hard if I want to do better at this. And I've got to go through my bumps, and I got to go through my bruises, and I got to get through this stuff here. The nice thing was my dad, who was there, who also coached me at that one, I think he was ringside for that one. I can't remember because honestly, it was such a blur at that point there. He let me suffer through it.
Oh, yeah.
He let me wallow. He let me... He wasn't there to pat me on the back and rub my belly or anything like that and make me feel all warm and cozy. He was like, well,
Welcome
bit of an
to,
eye.
yeah,
Welcome to the next stage here.
yeah.
And that sounds like he didn't prepare me for it. No, he did everything he could have, but there was still something I had to personally go through in order to have the next breakthrough, outside of what he was able to control and contain and reproduce in classes. There were still things that I had to go through to actually get to another stage. And luckily for me, and part and parcel because of what he did too, he pushed me to keep going and everything. But I just decided, well, I better just work harder. And so I don't know, was your experience similar to that?
Similar, except I didn't have the same expectations. I was the opposite. I was ready to get annihilated.
Okay.
I was so scared, nervous. But I knew that was going to be the story for me. Like, I knew I was going into another level. I was expecting that I was going to get a lesson or two in that first tournament as a black belt. So I think, yeah, similar. I didn't do well my first couple black belt tournaments just because it is a whole nother level that you aren't quite ready for, but you are ready for, but you need to like go through that learning curve of entering the black belt division. But I feel like that happens multiple times throughout your martial arts career. So
Yes. And that's why I wanted to bring this
yeah.
part up, was because just as of late, I've had a few conversations with parents, but this isn't the first couple times I've had it. I've had this conversation dozens of times with parents whose kids are in taekwondo and martial arts and in training, and when their kids start in martial arts, now depending on what style you do or how your school operates, for us, both with down here in Arizona and back in Canada, the first year of training is really building that foundations.
Yes.
If any sparring they do, it's very light, maybe play tag, just kind of learning some maybe hands only, but they don't really start sparring until a little bit later. And whether you do that in the first 6 months or the first 3 months, in some cases, the first day, I've heard of some, and I'm not saying that's bad. I don't think it's a great idea to have people just start on their first day and start sparring.
Yeah, that's a
I've
little intimidating.
I've definitely seen it or heard about it, and I've definitely heard some really bad stories with that. So
But yeah, definitely you have to spend some time just learning the
the
basics.
basics,
Like learn
absolutely.
how to throw a punch,
Yep.
how to throw a jab, how to throw
Where
a
your hands
cross.
go, what a
Where
stance is,
yeah,
like.
where do your feet need to be to execute a kick and then target practice, right? That's why we do a lot of
Right.
pads, lots of shadow boxing, lots of work on the bags. You work with partners and with kick paddles and stuff because there's a lot of learning that has to go in just to be able to take your foot and hit this big a target. That's a lot of
That's
skill
moving
involved.
too eventually.
Yeah.
That eventually starts to move. So that's the thing, was one of the things I hear lots is when the kids start sparring, the parents are coming in and they're frustrated. They're like, well, they're sparring, they're doing nothing you've taught them. They're doing none of the things you've shown them. They're not keeping their hands up. They're not doing combos. They're doing one kick, they're running away, they're not aggressive, and they have all of this critique about
Yes.
them, but yet without understanding that what they're doing now is just another phase. So they've gotten to go through all of these things, and there's this part where, okay, we learn how to kick, we learn how to punch, we do all of this stuff here, but they are now having to do this with opponents. The game changes now. There's things getting thrown at you. There is this stuff happening. So it really adds a new element to it, and it's hard for parents to kind of see that part, and they just think, well, you've shown them how to keep their hands up, so why aren't their hands up?
Right.
Well, everything goes out the window the second punches and kicks start actually flying at your face.
Right. Okay, so you've gone through a year of, learning the basics. You learn how to throw kicks and punches. You can hit a target that's not moving. Maybe moving, like maybe we're moving around now with paddles at the end of that year. But then you get into a sparring match and you have an opponent that you are now having to read and time and distance and all of these things going on. And if when you first get into sparring, it's like fight or flight, right?
Yes.
That's what you're dealing with when you first enter a sparring match with an opponent, because this is something you've not experienced before. So I think from a parent's perspective, that's what you're seeing is all of a sudden your kid is in fight or flight, and they can't figure out what to do because they just don't have that repertoire or those reps in the ring yet. And so it takes time to build that up so that they can enter the ring and not be in a fight or flight, mode right away. So, and you know what? When we moved to Arizona and then Ryder started sparring with the kids at Move, we did see that a little bit. Like the style is similar, but a little bit different. New kids, new environment. So there's a lot of things going on for Ryder, but he was definitely initially in that fight or flight as well. And so you kind of saw his sparring like take a step back because this was all new, right? There's new equipment, there's new sparring partners.
How hard am I allowed to hit here versus that? Like what is the...
And so as a parent, I saw it too in my own kid, but I knew that was just going to take time. And I don't really feel it's failing at anything. This is all data collection at that point, right? Like you got to get in, like you said, how hard am I allowed to hit? What's this equipment going to feel like? Like, what's my opponent doing? What are the rules of this sparring? Like, all of that is data that your brain is collecting. And then it takes time for your, brain to be able to process that and then execute at the level that you're capable of. And so that happened for Ryder. That happens when we enter black belt, but it also especially happens when you're a newer martial artist entering the ring for the first time.
Absolutely. And I think that's just one thing. Again, we're kind of speaking here, hopefully parents, if you're, watching this, maybe you've witnessed this with your kids and you've seen them overcome it, or maybe they're in the middle of that right now, wherever they're at. Just understanding that they're now learning an entirely new skill set. Yes, it's based on all the stuff that they've learned up till that point here, but it's an entirely new skill set. They are now trying to process what kicks to do, when to do them, how to do them against the opponent. Is this the right one to do it against different opponent skill sets? Like, are you fighting somebody taller, bigger, faster, more experienced? So really just trying to understand that, how fast you actually have to dodge. All of these things is happening, and we kind of take for granted that it took them 6 months to get a jab down.
Right.
Or get a turning kick or a round kick or a side kick or whatever, name your technique. When we first showed that technique to the students, it took them a while to learn that. Why would it not be the same thing for sparring? So understanding that the amount of time it took them to develop those skills to get them there, it's going to take equal or more time for them to actually get the skills of sparring in place. So really, really just trying to be like understanding of that and patient about it.
It was funny because exactly what you were saying is what I had in my notes here was like the brain is overloaded when they get into the ring. It is overloaded. They know the punches, they know the kicks, but now all they can think about is like, what am I supposed to do? When am I supposed to do it? And what is my opponent doing? Because now you're trying to read your opponent, and your brain is just like overloaded with that data. So it was funny you said exactly the words that I had in my notes.
That's funny.
Here. Yeah.
We have different ones.
We didn't.
I write.
Yeah, I have some notes on my phone because.
No, it's just like I said, I think it's one thing. Like I have a few things. These are just some tips for parents who are going through this, or maybe even if you're just even a coach yourself, you're an instructor, and you've had the conversation, and maybe you just didn't quite know what to say, or maybe you've thought it, but you couldn't put it into words. Hopefully, we're able to kind of do that and give you guys either some things to give feedback to parents about, or maybe again, if you're a parent who's watching, maybe going like, oh man, my kid's going through that right now. I never really thought of it that way. No, that, I didn't have that conversation. I should try to do that. Or my kid's already gone through that. I wish I did that. And now I'm going to hopefully be able to help the next parent I see going through the same thing I went through with my kid and everything. Or heck, this could even be for yourself. Maybe you're an
Right.
adult who is, or a teenager listening to this, and you're going through it as well. And you're like, oh, why do I suck at sparring? No, you don't. You're just, well, I've already done all these moves for so long. How come I can't do
I had one
so
more before
much?
you get into the tips for the parents. I had one more kind of couple thoughts in my head was, okay, they know the basics, they know the techniques, but now they're having to perform them under pressure where they haven't had that
Yes.
pressure of that opponent, right? Like we've been kicking kicks and or sorry paddles and shields, right? You don't have the same pressure. You get to like perfectly line up, you get to perfectly like set up for the kick, right? Just like board breaking, right? You get that perfect setup for the kick, but now you have some extra pressure because you have an opponent that's coming at you. So you don't get the perfect setup. You have to be agile and learn how to move around and all of that stuff. There was another analogy I just wanted to bring up. It's like when you're learning to spar, if we compare it to learning how to drive, how did you learn how to drive a car?
I got
Like
in.
did your dad like put you in the vehicle and like throw you out onto the road into like busy street?
No, how did I learn? I know you're wanting me to like answer in a certain way, but I'm trying to think of like how we got in. We probably started small. We probably started in the parking lot.
Right. That's
If
how
I
we
remember, I don't remember
I mean,
exactly.
something similar to that, right? Like I remember Canadian Tire parking lot. That's where I learned how to drive. It's an empty parking lot.
By the way,
This
people in the US, you guys don't understand like how awesome Canadian Tire is. I'm sorry. Like
But yeah, I remember Canadian Tire parking lot after the store was closed, completely empty. That's where I first drove a car, right? And okay, it's less pressure because there's no other cars to watch out for. If I, mess up on the gas or the brake or whatever, it's all good because there's no one else in the parking lot. Versus if my parents had threw me out onto, we're talking Lethbridge, out onto Mayor McGrath first day, that would have been way too much, right? Like there's other cars and now there's
yeah.
traffic lights and now there's, I got to stay in the lanes and I got to shoulder check and all of this stuff. Like that's the same with sparring, right? Like you have to learn in the empty parking lot first, which is that first year building the foundations. And then we progress to getting out onto the street with other cars. It adds that pressure, right?
Do you know what my dad did?
Oh.
My dad used to put his coffee cup on the dash,
Oh
and
my God.
he'd be like, you better not spill this. And then
Okay.
he'd say like, go.
Side note story.
And then he'd yell at me if it like moved.
When I was learning to drive, I had like maybe 2 sessions in the Canadian Tire parking lot, but then my parents signed me up for driver's training.
Right away, they knew.
Yeah, they knew I needed some extra help driving. Anyway, I was getting to the end of my driving. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I got to the end of like my driving course, right? When you're in the car with the driver that has their own brake pad on the other side of the vehicle, which is terrifying. Anyway, my driver instructor had given me an address in Lethbridge to go find. And so this was way before maps, right? Like you don't have a map in your car on the dashboard like back then. And so I'm driving around and I'm getting frustrated because I can't find this address. So he lets me go on for like 20 minutes and I cannot find this address. And and then eventually he's like, okay, go pull over wherever. And so he pulled over and he's like, the address doesn't exist. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what are you talking about? I've been like trying to find this address for 20 minutes. And he's like, no, I wanted you to feel the pressure of, it was taking me a long time to find this address. And then so subconsciously, consciously, you're like getting frustrated. And so he wanted to see how I would drive under pressure. So same sort of thing. Like you got to get into the ring and see how you do under pressure and get used to that feeling of being under pressure before you can actually implement, the kicks and punches and reaction and distance and target to your moving opponent now, right?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
See, I always like that when I hear, I don't care what it is that you teach or coach or instruct or whatever, when I hear things like that. I'm like, that's really interesting.
Yeah,
You
he
know, like
put me in
how
a hard, difficult situation
right
and saw
and
how I would react or
wanted to
respond to
see if
that.
you would figure it out, but also how you would handle it while you're figuring
Yeah,
it
so
out.
what they tend
That's
to
really cool.
see is that you kind of get into that, fight or flight mode again. And then you start making bad driving decisions and you don't quite stop all the way, or you're driving a little bit
That's
faster,
really cool.
or you get a little bit careless with your shoulder checks and all that stuff. So he was watching for how I responded to that pressure.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I like that.
Anyways, so applicable to sparring too. Like it is a whole nother ball game, a whole nother pressure to deal with. Anyway.
Yes.
Okay, tips for parents. That's where we're going next,
Yeah,
right?
no, exactly. So that's the thing. Like there's we've already covered the sparring. You know, learning all of the techniques that they need for sparring is different than the actual sparring. And yes, it can be sometimes frustrating watching your kiddos or even yourself do things and you're like, how come my hands can't stay up? I watch videos back of me, or I watch the kids and they don't keep their hands up, and it's like there's so much to think about. So we've already kind of covered that the whole environment changes. Everything about it is just completely different. But a few things that I try to tell parents myself when I'm talking to them, and maybe I'm going to be talking to you here on this one here. But just understand the new type of training that they're doing, and that it's like starting over in a way. There's this 2 steps forward and there's this one back. And so just understand that there is some change here and there's going to be some growth happening. And again, the same way you watched them on day one when they couldn't keep their hands up throwing, jab cross, or they couldn't hold their stance when they were doing a certain kick, or they fell over when they were doing a pattern, depending on what you're doing and what style and everything. It's all happening all over again. So just understand the type of training is changing. It's a new subject. And though it has the elements of everything they've been going through, it's a new environment. Everything about it is different. So just
Yeah,
I
it's
think if
another
anything, understand it.
it's another layer of skill.
Yes.
And so
And don't compare them to what they did a year ago when they started and this one. It's new. It's the same, but it's new.
and it's okay that
Yes.
when they first enter the ring, they are in survival mode.
Right.
That like it is okay. Maybe their first several matches, several weeks is just them getting into the ring and they're in survival mode. So maybe they're not yet ready to throw their own kicks and punches, but they are collecting data and learning how to move and be in the ring with a moving opponent that's also trying to attack them.
Yep.
And just feeling that out, learning how to survive and not be in that panic mode anymore. And it's different for everybody, like how long that process is going to take for someone to get into the ring and get out of survival mode. But initially, it is survival. Yep. And I recall that going into black belt competition, right? Like I was back to survival mode. I'm like, okay, I'm in a new level here. And so those first couple tournaments as a black belt, definitely back to survival mode. Like I'm in a panic state. I just need to survive the round, and that's okay because you're learning, and you're gathering information, and learning how to move around and get your skills in. But yeah. Question is, what are some of the things that parents can say or have the conversation with their child that is entering that phase, right? That's entering sparring.
Well, we'll get to that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get to some of that, and I'm sure you've probably got some things too, because I always find some interesting stuff between dads and moms. That's always kind of interesting too.
Right.
But anyway, understanding time. Just give it time. Like have a little bit more patience. So these two are kind of together, but have more patience and just give it time. Just understand that there's going to be some bumps and bruises and just be okay with that because it's totally fine. It's normal. Like just be patient and give it time. I kind of said it earlier, but just I want you to understand that the amount of time it took them to learn that jab and learn that turning kick, that round kick, that back kick, that side kick, that base stance, that sparring stance, that hands up, the same amount of time it took them to learn that, it's going to take them to really learn sparring. And seriously, way more time. But for them to kind of just get comfortable in it, it's going to take that same time. Now, can some get it faster?
Yes.
Heck yeah. There are some people who just have a higher threshold of they have less fear, and they can adapt to the environment of a punch flying at them, and they have more reaction skills to it. So they're okay. They can survive it and come out through it a little bit faster. But exactly the same thing when kids start. Some kids can learn these skills a little faster. Adults too, teens, adults, everybody, just so you know.
There's so many little things in play, right? Like even just balance, right? Like some kids come into our martial arts school and they have really good balance. So that helps them, execute some of the skills a little bit better, a little bit faster, right? Whereas someone that doesn't have that same level of balance or fitness or just basic skills, they have to kind of learn those skills before they can learn the actual to execute the kick properly. And in all of our, there's just so many things that affect the rate of our learning that we just have to be okay with it. And it'll come through a lot of consistency.
Yep.
We love that word.
Next thing, I would definitely say you've got to remember that they're trying to remember everything we've shown them. So as an instructor, as a coach, we've shown them all this stuff there, and now they have to remember it while these things are going on.
Right.
And actually understand that we take for granted all the stuff that we do. So like breathing, we don't think about breathing. We don't think about like when I swallow this drink that this has to, we don't think about these things. And for some reason, we think that, well, because breathing is just natural and I just do it, well, they've already been shown these kicks and punches. When they go and spar, they should just do it. Like, and then they get frustrated about it. And it's like, oh.
That's part of the reaction. Like when you're in that fight or flight mode, sometimes you forget that you're breathing.
Yes.
Or that you're not breathing.
Well,
and the same thing happens like when you are exercising, right? Is sometimes you're trying to do something really hard and you're focused on like getting the right technique and stuff. And so you forget about your breath.
Yes. So that's it. Usually a lot of people, I don't even have this in here, but a lot of people, if you watch their cardio, their first couple matches, it is garbage because they've gone in there and they're tense and they're biting, and you look at their mouth guard, it's like almost bitten right through. They haven't breathed, and they finish that match, they're exhausted. And it's like, yeah, they forgot to breathe. And you can imagine if they forgot to breathe, keeping their hands up is going to be something they'll probably forget too. So just be like a little chill about it. Just, yeah.
Right. And I was just going to say that's part of the importance of a warm up too, is because you get that out of your system. Like you have to have a really good warm up before you get into the ring so that you're already breathing and you've already gotten over that hump of like forgetting to breathe.
Yeah.
So
this is one where I find interesting between men and women, moms and dads. And maybe you'll push back on this one, maybe you'll agree. But this is just stuff that I see more often than not. Again, I'm talking about more often.
Okay,
more often than not. You've got to let them go through it. Like you actually have to let them suffer and let them go through a little bit of hell and just let them actually deal with it and let them get themselves out of it. Like let them figure it out. And I find dads have an easier time sitting back and just going, and we'll sit back and we'll go like, oh man, like we'll get frustrated, but we won't. Whereas moms, I find, have a way harder time just letting their kids suffer.
Oh, for sure.
And that's the nurture nature, thing that we have as men and women, moms and dads. And so sometimes we have to kind of say, Mom, you might have to just step out for a little bit.
I definitely agree with that. I would say that because I grew up in the martial arts
Yes, so
and
that's what I'm
I
saying.
have that experience, I'm more comfortable with it
Yes.
than I would say that the
Most moms.
most moms.
Yes.
And not to like generalize
No.
anybody or anything. It's just I grew up in the martial arts. I've been through it. I know what it takes. And so if
You
I
know they
could
have to just deal with it.
yeah, if I could give advice to moms, I would say remember that that awkward stage is normal. And so you can even talk to your kids about that. Like, Mr. D and Miss S, they looked that way too. They felt that way too.
Yeah.
And so, like, normalizing that awkward stage for your kid, it helps them just be accepting of where they're at and it allows you to encourage them. And so, when I'm talking to, well, students or my own kids, I kind of leave more of our own kids' discussions around martial arts with you, to be honest. But I know, like,
I've been trying to leave it to you, so nobody's talking to them about
no one's
anything.
talking to our kids.
I'm just joking.
It's yeah. Anyway, but if I could give advice, it would be to just praise some of the effort and the things that they are able to work on and get better at. So, if I'm seeing that Ryder's struggling, obviously, like I talked about when we came to move, it was the same thing. I'm like, oh, bud, like, it's all good. Like, this is just going to be a kind of awkward learning stage for you because we're in a new gym, we're in with new people, new style, new equipment, different things. Like, it's going to be awkward for a bit. And so those were some of the things that I would say. And I'm like, but look at how well you moved around with that guy.
Yeah.
Or like, I would find something positive to say. That's the like nurture part of me is I'm always going to find, praise the positive things that were happening. And I knew like some of the negative or failures type stuff. I didn't really acknowledge those things because they're just, like I said, like they're just data points that he's collecting. His brain is going to collect, and then he will learn how to action on those afterwards. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If I can give, again, I've met some dads who can't do this, but I've met some moms who can do this. So again, giving a pretty like 80%, 80%, one way or the other. But if I can give you any advice, moms and dads both, just in case you're one of the dads who can't do this, just let them go through it. Like, let them suffer. Just be okay with it. And I've got things we'll go to help with that, but don't. I tell this to your kids, if you're listening, whoever this is, if I train them, your mommy and daddy aren't always going to be here to save you, so you cannot look for them all the time. And so even when Ryder goes to compete, I'm not there to save. I'm not fighting that match. He is.
He's fighting the match.
He is in it. I might be coaching him, but I'm not fighting. He is.
Right.
And so I can't save him. He has to get himself out of it. So if you can and you see him struggling with certain things, just let them figure it out. Because trust me, they will figure it out if you have patience and time and you can just sort of step back a little bit. Yeah, don't save them. Let them save themselves. Next one I would say is be understanding but not critical. Again, every time when this conversation, what made me think of this episode was most of the time when they start sparring and the parents come up and talk to me about it and everything, it's everything they're doing wrong.
Right.
They're not doing their hands up. They're not doing combos. They're not doing this. They should be back down here.
And
holy smokes.
that's what I was saying is like, find the good things that they are doing.
Exactly. And so it was kind of bleeding from what you were
Right.
saying too, is like just be understanding but not critical. Like you can like have critiques that they need and they're legit things. Keeping their hands up. Legit.
And sometimes I'll be
Combinations, legit.
I'll be inquisitive to them.
Right.
Because get them to give you the answer. Okay, so like what can you work on for next time?
Yes.
Maybe it's moving around, maybe it's keeping your hands up, whatever. Okay, so like let's go into the next match and keep that front of mind. So can you move around more? Can you sidestep more? Can you
Yep.
retreat better? Can you advance better? Like just having just simple things to encourage them to keep going, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's just it. Like just be there to help them out through the pros, like all the stuff that they're doing well, because they're doing lots of good stuff, but sometimes we overlook it because they're not doing some of the other stuff, and it's like, well, they're just getting it. Just,
And I said it already, but consistency is so key during that awkward phase. Like the more you can get them to class and the more you can get them in the
yep,
ring, that goes so, because the more you can put them in that environment, the more data they're going to collect, the more information their little brains are going to collect,
yep,
and the better they'll get. And the more we can keep them there, that fight or flight response, it can go away because they're in that situation more and they're learning how to deal with it much more calmly. So it is so important, even though some of those sessions are going to suck
yep,
and feel a little bit defeating. That's why I'm saying, like, keep it positive and, acknowledge the awkward phase, but keep them going, because the more that they're there, the better they're going to get. And so when you watch fighters in the ring, you can tell the ones that have spent a lot of time there, right? Because they just have this essence about them, this aura around them, that they are comfortable. They're they get better at treating it like a game,
right,
right? So I know we've talked about this before, is like, now when we get into the ring, well, I haven't stepped into a ring for a long time, but like a tournament. But once you're there, like if you have the reps in, you can go in there and just feel really good and treat it like a game rather than fight or flight mode.
yep.
Right. And consistency is so important for that.
And that's just it. So you might have to just kind of, well, maybe we got to come a couple extra days. We got to get them in a little bit more, because it will just kind of build that, comfort level, and they just have to get comfortable with it. And it's like, it's funny because when we watch a match, and let's just go to like the highest level, let's just say it's a UFC match, and there's thousands of people watching these two people go. Only one wins, right? Like, we all have work and things, and stuff happens.
And
So,
what's funny about sparring, I think patterns, I think any skill really, but you really see it in sparring, you really see it in patterns too, is that, okay, they're learning and it's awkward and it's awful sometimes. And okay, like one day they'll look maybe a little bit better, and then the next day they're like back to square one, it
right.
seems like. And so you're constantly like waiting and waiting, and then all of a sudden it clicks.
Yes.
Like things all of a sudden, it's so cool, like when you get to witness that. Whether that's in a tournament or in class, like all of a sudden the kids just like all of a sudden figure it out. It like everything just clicks, and then all of a sudden they're moving around and they're executing their skills and they're scoring points, and you're like, whoa, what happened? Like, I know we have a student, Frida. That Frida's a one that, like, oh my gosh, it just like, just before red belt, it started clicking for her, and you could see the difference all of a sudden. Like, she's always been a great student, obviously, like very astute, I would say, and very focused. But then all of a sudden, it's like your physical body and your mental capacity all comes together all at once, and all of a sudden they're shining. And it's so cool when that happens. But the only reason that happens is because consistent training and consistent putting yourself into that awkward, survival mode in the sparring ring.
Yep.
It's so cool to see.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's, I don't know if you've got any other things you kind of want to, tips or tricks or advice or anything in this for whether it's people or parents or anything that you want to bring up with this one here. But that's kind of what I've got there for you guys there. So I'm kind of hoping some of those things helped out. But I don't know, maybe as a mom witnessing other moms or anything you've got.
No, I think we covered it all. I think the final message, though, is like when they enter the ring for those first several times, whether that's several sessions, several weeks, several months, like it takes time and it's different for everybody, is like we said, understanding where they're at, and they're not bad at sparring. They're not bad. It is a learning curve just like anything else, and those first several weeks of sparring is going to be a lot of just information overload for them. And so understanding that that's going to happen, and it's almost like this slow motion magic trick that's coming, and eventually you do have that like light bulb moment that happens and they're on fire.
Yep.
You see it in not even just in sparring, but with Rocky. Like, remember Rocky started when he just turned 4 and we started him in classes, and it was brutal.
Right.
It was awful. And this is just like little champ. We're not even talking about sparring. It was so awful. And then several weeks in, I would say few months in, all of a sudden, he's like standing tall, shoulders up, chest out, hands behind his back. He's the loudest one in the class. Like, something just clicked for him. And it took time. And so I think that's where we as parents have to be understanding of where they're at with any skill, but especially with sparring.
Yeah. No, exactly. So just to recap it all here, but understand the new type of training they're doing. Time plus patience is just going to equal results. So just give it some time, be patient with them. Trust me, they'll come through. Data, they're processing data. So just be mindful that they're trying to figure all of this stuff out. They're trying to remember this. They're trying to remember all the stuff their coaches have told them, you've told them, and they're just trying to compile all of that and trying to work through everything. So just understand it. Let them go through it. Let them get themselves out of it, and don't try to save them every single time, okay? You can be there off to the side, but don't try to save them. You can't. It can be hard, but be understanding and not critical. And don't point out the things they're doing, they're not doing, but focus on what they're doing well and what they've improved on. Because trust me, they are improving. They are getting better day by day, even when we don't see it. So as the parent, be there, be understanding, listen to them, ask them what they did well, see what their take is on it, and let the coaches just kind of do the coaching. The last thing I would say on that one too is just when you are being patient, the reason why patience is so important, and not being critical with them. If do you know how critical they are of themselves? The last thing that we need is more compounded on top of us.
And that's the thing. They're the ones in the ring getting their butt kicked.
Yeah, they already know.
They know.
Yeah.
They know that they're not doing everything perfectly correct because they're feeling it from their opponent. So they know. They don't need to hear it again from parents that they didn't keep their hands up. They know they didn't keep their hands up. They don't need to hear from parents they didn't move around enough. They know because they're getting they're getting those kicks and punches from their opponent. So they already know those things. It doesn't help them anymore to hear it again and again and again and again from parents, right? Parents, let's be on the positive side. Look for the things that they're doing right. Encourage them to keep going, acknowledging that awkward stage so that they are excited to keep going and reach that black belt level.
Listen, there's probably so much more I could cover on this, but I feel like it just kind of like stems to a whole bunch of other things. But be there for them and be patient and understand that it's going to take some time and be okay with it. Again, I try to always go back to it's a long game and you got to learn to play it and you got to just be patient and let those things fall where they fall. And
it makes me think of Rocky right now because Rocky is at like the top of his game in those Mighty Mover classes, right? Like he's so good. And then I think about, okay, maybe a year from now when he gets sparring a year from now, he's going to get knocked down a peg. That
Oh, yeah.
poor guy. And so like I already anticipate that. I know it's going to come. I know like I'll have to be in the right headspace and be ready to encourage him on all the things that we're talking about, but I know it's going to happen. It's
Yep.
just it's going to happen for him, and I'll be so proud of him to stick it through and learn, the sparring game.
And even with other things, Ryder with baseball
Mhm.
was a big jump when he came here.
Mhm.
And then there's going to be another big jump when he starts getting to that 12, 13,
Yep.
14. So,
Right.
anyway, just
Yeah.
got to be patient. We got to let them get through it. But try to just be okay with watching them go through it and watch, but be really, really proud and excited for them when they figure out how to get themselves out of it and they have overcome the fear and the stress and the anxiety of it. Be there, be proud of them.
Yeah, I get excited for
Oh,
that.
I know.
That like that point where it all comes together. I try and just keep that in my head.
Yep.
Like I know when Rocky gets there, that's what I'll be like. I'll be so excited for Rocky when he has that like clicks moment. Like we've already been through that with Ryder, and so it'll be super exciting to watch Rocky.
Absolutely. Well, and listen, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. If you guys did enjoy it and you guys found some value out of it, it would mean the world to us if you would just share it and just, grab the link, share it out there, send it to somebody, share it on your social media, or even just simply subscribing to the YouTube channel and leaving a comment about it. Maybe there's something, maybe you have a question or there's something that you've also done. Maybe you can teach us something and say, hey, I did this with my kid and it really helped out. Boy, I love hearing that stuff too. So anyway,
It would be awesome if you subscribe right now. Like if you're listening to this right now, subscribe because then you're going to get notified of the next episode, right? And after a few episodes, if you really hate our show, just unsubscribe. But subscribing now is really going to help us out so that we can, share this podcast with more people. So appreciate you. Love you.
all right, guys. Thank you so much. You've been listening to Off the Mat with Josh Dillon and
Nicole Dumoulin.
all right, guys. Thank you very much. See you.
Ciao.